mobility, flow, and balance. Your mat may be useful. Certainly a chair will come into the equation. I want you to think about just letting your body go into its forward fold. We are starting right off with a walkout into a supported plank hold, right? So I tend to let my feet go as wide as the mat is because I'm not trying to strain myself. We're letting the spine relax. Depending on how stiff your hands feel or how weak your wrists are, like it will, you'll be able to determine that within a first couple of positions. So I put my chair there as a means of just being able for me to make a pretty quick decision that maybe I don't want to stay in wrist support. And if you find yourself wanting, to scale the movement back to make it a little easier, then just walk yourself forward and put your elbows on the chair. The goal is to not let your body collapse. So as you come in and out of your movement, right, roll yourself up, squeeze the buns, pull the belly in, slide down. Sometimes within a moment of doing something, you might say to yourself, well, I'll try one repetition of a harder version. And so I want you to have the option of where is the spot for you that's going to make you feel like you're being successful with this, to the degree that you're in control, no strain. And this time, as I walk out, I'm just going to give myself my full runway so that I don't use my chair. Now, what if you get here and you still want more? Then come down on your elbows, right? You then have to get yourself back up to your hands to walk back. But a warm up, right? That's what we're after. We're just increasing our body circulation. We're putting some load on our body. And as you're doing this with me, what if you get out here and you suddenly realize that you're overcommitted and your chair is too far away? Then put your knees down for a moment, come down to your elbows, push yourself back up to your hands, re-stiffen your knees, right? And walk yourself back. Being able to just know that you have options, and what are your options, right? It seems like that's an easy thing to evaluate, but sometimes you kind of forget where you can go with your move. Walk it back, you've got one more. So decide where you want to be. Big squeeze, belly to spine, no rush. As you're coming forward, allow the legs to soften so that you get a nice gentle hamstring stretch, right? Don't rush the connection to the floor. I'm going to go ahead and go flat, open-handed position. Squeezing. Be prepared to hold. If you're on your chair, just make sure that your shoulders aren't pushing you forward in front of the elbows. Stack your parts. And now hang on to this for 4, 3, 2. Walk the feet forward to get out of that. Release and relax. Changing your support base. There's something else I want to try with you, but maybe I'll reserve that until I work out the kinks on my own. We haven't done this one for a while. We're going to do this with a chair support, and then we will turn it into a little rock step minus the chair with an arm movement. Okay, so we've got a long aspect of, we can take a movement that seems really simple, right? And we can just keep building on to the movement where literally we can get 3 to 5+ minutes into a flow pattern. All right, so don't worry so much about if your leg is tracking straight back. More importantly, when the leg glides back, Try not to let your upper body tip forward. That requires you to pull back a little bit. It will lessen the amount of leg kick you have, which cleans up your movement. Do 3 more. 3, 2, last one. All right, other side. So you can switch the sides of your, move to the other side of your chair or just get a little bit away from it so you've got plenty of working room. Push. In my years of training, this is one of those movements that where and what the foot is doing seems like wherever it goes is where it needs to be, but that's seldom the correct thought process to guided movement. So as your foot comes up, right, try to move it so that it's hanging under the knee, not under the bum. And then as you push the leg down, you're trying to get extension at the knee, not a hinged position. So though you might not be able to see really cleanly what my leg is doing once it sweeps back, I want you to know that you're trying to take your toes, point them as they stroke back, and see if you can connect your big toe to the floor, because that will help you elongate your line. 3 more. 3, 2, last one. And now your chair doesn't need to be in your space. I'm going to get mine out of my space, but I will say this. If spatial awareness is something that you struggle with, right? As soon as you start moving and we turn our head one way or the other, if you feel like you're out of sorts, then keep yourself close to your countertop, your sofa, your chair edge, because we're moving. Sometimes it's hard to know exactly where to put your support base. So having a door, right, the wall to give you some leeway. The wall works really good because you can just keep your hand kind of gliding along the wall. But we're now into our rock step. And as you step forward, the rear leg is going to switch positions from the ball of the foot to the top of the foot and then step back. The arm that goes with the forward stepping leg is going to be the arm that's tracing a circle, right? Like you're tracing a clock dial on your imaginary wall over here, right? And now, did we forget to roll the foot? So much is happening here, right? Roll to the top of the foot, sweep the arm up. If you have an injury going on in your shoulder, then you shorten your lever and you make the elbow be the lead to whatever degree you can lift the arm and try to get it to track. All right. Rolling to the top of the foot. That takes an extra little bit of awareness to pause right there, push the hand back. Inhale up, exhale, push. As you take that arm back behind you, draw the shoulder blades down, get the length. You've got this last one, push back. And now, before we switch legs, this is part of our balance training. We've been working on this movement where it seems like it's exactly what we started with the chair, okay? So when you sweep back, it's the ball of the foot that draws on the mat. When you sweep forward, the foot changes to flexed foot. So the leg gets to bend, which is the big difference from having the chair support. That was a nice straight leg on the back sweep. But the bending leg is what allows you to heel stroke, ball of foot stroke, right? And again, if you need your chair, your wall, your stick, whatever, balance training, balance 101. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, and relax. Just being able to get your foot to articulate the timing of that, to have the ankle working, that's the challenge. So the leg right? Make sure that you're not doing the same leg, stepping, rolling foot, travel back, right? I know which one I was doing because I use the side of my body with my arm closest to the screen. So if you're mirroring me, then we probably got you in the right position. When you step forward, don't stride so far forward that you feel like you're doing a lunge, right? It's just center of gravity, transitions, roll the top of the foot, push it down. If you're ready to add the arm, test it, right? Do you need to shorten your limb or can you go full extension, right? So if everything's going along nicely and you're like, what did she just do? It looks like she added in her other arm. I did. It's like my arms are doing this windmill, which complicates things because anytime we add in an extra part, you see him trying to sneak out of the house. Inhale up, exhale, roll. What I'm doing with my head too is I'm turning and following the lifted arm, and then I'm keeping my eyes kind of on that arm as it tracks back. The other arm is just an extension to our movement. It's not one that you really need to focus on, right? Big sweep. You are twisting, turning, elongating, rolling the top of the foot, push back. You might find that you're not actually tracking, like you're all over the place, right? That's the great thing about having a little bit of space that I have is that I know even if I'm not in line, right, that my mat is creating this reference point to me. So as long as I'm on my mat, even if I'm not really dialed into a straight line, you've got 3 more of these push pull. This should actually feel really good and a full body generating movement as far as recruitment. Do this last one, big sweep, pull back, release and relax. I know that as I was talking, that some of my step forwards omitted the full rolled foot. So if you're like, if you caught me on one of those repetitions where I wasn't fully rolling my foot, it's because I was talking and I lost my focus. Okay, grab your stick or you can use an elastic band, right? Doesn't have to be a stick. It could be a towel. It could be a yoga strap. This is not going to be for strength. This is just having an accessory. Frontal raise. As you go into doing what you're doing, the stick makes it easy for you to set that stick and cradle it right between the thumb, right? So with your thumbs holding the stick, the rest of your hand actually should look like it's straight to the elongated arm. So sometimes when I watch people anchor the stick with the thumb, the rest of the hand does something funky, but I want you to imagine that your fingers, hands are really opened and actively elongated because that's part of you being aware. Why does it matter? Part of it matters because it's truly skill, right? Lines, clean lines are harder to get to. It takes another aspect of awareness to not just hold something, but to hold something where these little things that could be floaty and just not even seem like they're part of the equation, right? We want everything to work like from fingertips to the tips of your toes and everything in between all has a job. When one part of you is moving, the whole rest of your body, all the way down to your toes, is connected into the movement. But that is not how most people exercise, right? So this is not the way we control ourselves when we're just moving through our day. So for these few minutes, if your arms don't want to come all the way up, if your shoulders are really tight, then you just raise your arms to whatever level doesn't trigger like, a glitch, right? That's important. Now I'm going to show you something. So if you can get your arms up and down and back up without smacking your head or straining, that's your movement. If your arms have to stop somewhere before they get all the way up, then you're pulling from whatever angle your arms are at, right? I just can get my arms overhead. And here's another significant thing. So you're determining where is your stop zone. I'm going to turn to the side. If you are here with me and you're like, wow, I can really get my good long stretch, and then you start pulling your arms down, wait for it. If you have to jut your head forward to get the stick behind you, you've broken the line. So maybe you're only able to pull the stick to the top of the head because your shoulders and the rest of your upper middle back don't permit the full range of motion. But wherever your angle takes you, right, don't let the neck move. You can explore space here. Maybe you're out to the front, and maybe then the next one you go a little higher angle and you pull to the clavicles. And then the next one you take it and you pull right to the top of the head. And then the next one you pull all the way behind the shoulders. I don't know. Do one more. Pick your position. Which one felt the best? And release. Whew. Those hands really just did a lot of work. Okay. I've just moved into the next thing. Now, obviously, if you're working with a band, you're not going to be able to do this. If you have a ball, but you don't have a stick, then grab your ball. If you have a stick and you're just doing something a little fun, it could be a ball. This is all just part of your, we'll call it eye-hand coordination, right? I'm using the sensory awareness to not have to look at my stick. I'm not looking at my stick because I get to look straight ahead and see the object moving. But the amount of time that you don't even have to let the stick go. It could just cross over from side to side. But the more speed you have, right? There it is, speed, speed, speed. Have you dropped it yet? 5. Maybe it's not actually working straight up and down. Like when you catch the stick, is it being wobbly? What's not working right? It's crazy, right? When you catch the stick, does it tick tock? This is part of eye-hand coordination and also grip strength. 10, 9, 8, 7. Wait till we stand on one foot. 5, 4, 3, 2. It doesn't have to be fast. Get on one foot. You do not have to use your accessory. You might find that you need your accessory just to help you stand on one foot. Get the knee out of the way, soften the other leg. This is all part of your balance training. So balance training is much more challenging than most people give it credit for, right? So now the opposite hand to your stance leg has got either your ball or your stick. Down it comes, look down, straighten your stance leg, and then bring your gaze back up because I want you to watch for a second. You are going to try to just hinge forward just a little bit to feel your body weight shift and pull yourself back up. You have your other foot to help you. As soon as you hinge forward, if you go all squirrely, put the other foot down just to help you stabilize. Come back up and squeeze. Try to keep this leg nice and strong. Hinge, look at your foot. Are your toes all curled up? Spread your base out. Try to keep your big toe touching the floor. You're in hinge, and now bend the leg. You're looking down. You're into what would seem like a single leg squat, because that's kind of what this is. Pull up. It's actually called a single leg deadlift, but we're only doing a fraction of the hinge. Release and relax. Get into your space. I'm going to get totally on my mat, so I'm not half on, half off. If you have a water bottle, if you have a ball, if you have a soup can, if you've got a 1-pound dumbbell, just watch out for your feet if you're using something that's heavy. back to your stance. You can assist with your other foot. You just need to have your knee out of the way if you're using a stick. So if this were me and I didn't know what my skill really was, then I would keep my foot down so that I could then tighten my glutes, stand strong, and not have my toes curled up on the stance foot, okay? But because I know that I've got more control than that, I'm gonna lift that foot. I'm still gonna squeeze my buns, right? And then I'm gonna try to get my stick moving faster, right? 5, 4, 3, 2, and hold. I'm gonna square back. Well, actually, I'll stay here. So the hand that's got the stick or your ball or your weight is the opposite hand to your stance leg. All right, so you're going to look down, make sure that your foot is aligned true, right? How does it change positions? There we go. All right, take your forward position and then pull yourself back up. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. I thought instead of doing tree pose today, that we would just spend some time doing something a little bit different, but still in single leg stance, right? So here we go. Again, look down, look at your foot. Just looking down might be enough to make you go all squirrely. Push the leg that's off the floor, push it back a little bit so it's got some tension, and then hinge. You can soften the knee on your stance leg while you keep pushing the other leg back. That gives you your yin and your yang of your movement. Pull yourself up, squeeze the buns. You could have put your stick down as an assist and done it in a modified position. This is what my point I'm trying to get across to you. When I do something and we have an accessory and we're in single leg stance and you feel yourself going all kitty wampus, anchor yourself. If you're not going to anchor yourself with your accessory, then you anchor yourself with your other foot and you try to start learning the mechanics of something different. All right. So we're going to do last thing, and your stick doesn't have to go on the floor. I'm going to put mine down though. We're going to get into lateral. So we've done arm and leg on a particular plane, right? We just did hinge on a particular plane. And now we're going to move our body across our object. Maybe it's your imaginary object, right? If you don't trust yourself to be able to get completely clear of your object, then don't put something down that rolls, right? Push, push. If your foot barely clears your object, you're doing it, but could you do it with a little more oomph? Both feet need to clear your object. I was working with a client yesterday, and we put 2 like Airex pads down, and they were about 6 to 8 inches apart from each other. And I had him, because you know the Airex pad is a little squishy. He wasn't doing springy hops, but he was transitioning his weight just like we're doing here, because the Airex pad makes the ankle and the foot and the knee work harder. So there are lots of ways to train. This is a skill. When you push over, your body has to react to that momentum. And for you, if you're really skilled, then the harder you push yourself, it increases speed, and then your body has to find a way to put on the brakes, right? To establish control. So 5, push. 4, you can scale it back as gentle as you need the movement to be, or as explosive as you need it to be. And cut, release and relax. This is the great thing about it's your free will. You get to see something, you get to experiment, you get to go, oh, that was way out of my skill set, or I surprised myself and I did one really clean one. And that means that I'm learning. Put your stick away. Grab your change. What I'm going to learn is how to get off the floor with the stick behind my hips. I will revisit that because I think that's just the funniest thing. We are going to do some primal movement patterns today. I just want to prepare you for that. We're going to be on hands and knees. We're going to be crawling forwards, backwards, sideways. Okay. So as you think about, ooh, is that something you want to do? I will give you options if you're not going to be on your knees, but it's not going to be nearly as complicated if you're not on your hands and knees. Change down. If you have something that you're going to drop your change into, put it off to one side. Let's do all one side. And what I'd like for you to do is, if you're going to put your change in a pile, let's try to have 5 of our pieces going across body and 5 of them coming out. Okay, so for the further you are away from your change, the harder the movement is. Right. So you've hopefully already started. Pick it up, drop it off, pick it up, drop it off. The hands, it's so funny. If you check out your hands, they might be actually acting like claws and pointed, like the arms might be turned the wrong way, right? Just trying to kind of help you manage this movement. There are times where I watch people collect your change, do the other side. As I watch people, clients that is, I'm tempted to have them put their arms behind them. If you want an extra level of experience, right? Put your hands behind you. And that, I don't want to say will reveal something interesting, but it will make your movement harder. So drop off 5, alternating sides. It's, unless you're really close to your change, you should feel like you need to bend the stance leg to help you reach for your coin, right? Oops. I was watching something so like it was a huge reveal to me, something that I hadn't considered about wrist strength. And this has nothing to do with what we just did. You're done with your change, put it away. So there are certain topics that are on my radar because of what I get to experience with so many clients who feel like they can't load their hands because their wrists feel, one, really weak or strained. And so this woman was doing this little video and explaining that it's not just a random woman, physical therapist, and explaining that essentially it's not your wrists that's weak, it's your grip strength, it's your forearms, it's all of these tendons through this lower arm, including the hand strength. So I want you to think about this. We just, remember I've mentioned, our feet and ankles are very much like our wrists and hands. So we just did claw-like action for our foot. So the movement that this woman was suggesting is a claw-like action for your hand that helps train the hand and the forearms. That's food for thought and something that we'll address next week. But if you find, especially after having done our first movement where we walked out, and you found that just loading your hands made you feel very cautious for your wrists, that is an indicator that we need to strengthen our hands, our grip strength, and our forearms, right? So coming next week. All right, primal movement patterns. If you're not going to come down on your hands and knees, if you are going down on your hands and knees, get there. If you're going, no, I don't want to, it's going to seem kind of silly. You're going to almost seem like you're miming things, okay? But if you had your imaginary wall in front of you, right? Hands touching the imaginary wall, you're going to move opposite hand like we're going down the hallway. opposite hand and foot. This is really simple. Apply that on the floor if you're going to be here with me, crawling, hands and knees, opposite hand to foot. What does this do? It gets us back into loading the wrist, right? Now, back it up. If you're standing and you've been moving in one direction, take it back the other way. If you're kneeling with me, pause for a moment. You might be moving your hand and then moving the opposite knee and moving the hand and opposite knee. And you'd be like, well, I am doing hand and opposite knee. I need for you to synchronize your parts. And now you can start again. You're synchronizing your parts so that the two limbs pick up at the same time. And now as you go forward, I want you to get ready to stop in forward motion with only one hand, one knee support. Put it down, moving forward a few inches, switch to the other side, right? Move it forward, move it forward. And now let's get up on our feet, pause, right? If you're staying standing, you're going to now be going forwards and backwards, all right? Excuse me. If you were standing, you were moving laterally. We, on our hands and knees, were moving forward and back. So if you were standing, you're going to be going opposite hand pushes forward, right? While the leg pushes back. Push, push, push. You're going to be moving forward and backwards. For us, on our hands and knees, come back down. We are now setting up our space to move laterally. So I'm going to be looking down at the floor. If you want to see what we're doing, then you just keep visually checking me out. The lateral moving on the floor, hand and knee, seems to be the one that really challenges people more than the forward and back. You want to make sure that your movement is small enough, and hopefully you've come down and you've started, right? Your spacing of your hand and your knee needs to be small enough so that you don't end up with your legs kind of leading the position. Your center of gravity is still midline. Take it the other way, opposite hand to knee. The same rule applies. Long spine, neck is in neutral, right? When you get to this next lift, hold yourself so that you only have one hand, one knee on the floor. Put it down, move to the other side. One hand, one knee, opposite hand. This is no different than us setting up and getting ready to do a bird dog, right? Release and relax on your feet. You being able to roll yourself up and down, on and off your feet from your toes to your heel placement is really, and be able to do it with what feels like a good control is super important. Okay, so that's all part of your hip mobility. Grab your book, maybe grab a drink since you're on your feet. I have worked with people in the pool in a standing position along the edge of the pool where we move on the pool opposite hand to foot. And it seems weird. And after a few steps, sometimes what happens is the same hand and leg start going. And then it takes them a couple of repetitions to realize, oh, I lost my pattern. So then they have to stop, wipe the slate clean, tell their brain, okay, which side's going to move. So this seems really, if you're skilled at it, then standing up won't pose the problem. If you didn't have any problem with it, then advance to the harder level and come down on your knees next time we present that to you. The harder versions are when your knees are not touching the floor, when it's your feet and your hands that are supporting you, but I'm not trying to work us that hard today. So book on head. There's so many things that I would love to incorporate with the book training. I would love to, I'm planting the seed, okay? I would love for us to, without the book, put that rolled up towel edge on the floor and then position our foot so our big toe is on the towel and do calf raises that way for the strengthening. Remember how we started doing those calf raises with our big toe on the towel to help strengthen the foot and precisely the big toe? What happens is when the book creates this awareness of where your body needs to be in order to keep the book on the head. And so when we add extra movement, start walking around, right? As we add extra movements in, and the more challenge I give you, the better. That seems kind of mean, right? It's like, this is what I always thought was super interesting about strength training, because I used to work out with a trainer, right? I mean, I'd spend hours and hours in the gym training other clients. And then when it came time to training me, I often had the same mentality of most people who work with a trainer is I wanted to be able to be guided through the gym, and I didn't want to always have to think about like what my workout should consist of. Tucking chin, right? Pull the chin into chin tuck, abs nice and tight. You're just walking around your space as I tell you story time. And so as I was meeting my, we'll say, goals of weight bearing load, I always found that it was interesting in that as the body gets stronger, you never really reach the point, come back into single leg stance. You never really reach the point where you're like, oh, I've achieved it all. This is the interesting thing about exercise is that as you get presented options that are a little bit harder than what your body's used to doing, you may not have huge success right out of the gate, but as you implement and you try it, and then you try it again, and you try it again, and you start seeing that your body is reacting to the new demand, and you finally get it. It's not like then there's no place to move forward from that. Then the next level of challenge comes into the equation. This is the aspect that I find amazing, and as amazing as that is, it can also come with a smidgen of like frustration if you let it. Try not to be frustrated with what you feel are things out of your current level of skill. Patience, consistency, enough support. Enough support for you to know that, oh, if you see me doing this, you go, well, there's some version of that I can do. I can put my hand on the wall or my chair. I can rest my foot down onto the floor, walk around your space. Don't forget which leg you're standing on, right? I love the tree pose. The tree pose done right. And again, this is my interpretation of tree pose. So you all know I've made reference before that if I was like in a yoga class, any class that I'm in, somehow there's something about what it is that I'm doing that draws the attention to then have my movements corrected. This is, for me, fantastic to have another set of eyes on me that helps me frame myself. And I'm even highly attentive to where the right spots are supposed to be. And I need help too. So, like, that is part of this funny thing. I do not like other instructors to know that I'm an instructor coming into their class. because I'm not looking to challenge them. I want to take a class in a way where they're not trying to prove anything to me, and that I can receive what it is that they do without feeling like there's some competition of, and you guys may or may not know what I'm talking about, but squeeze, pull, chin tuck. What version of this are you in? Are you in full tree pose? If you are, right, just know that the more you get this part of your hip bones into pelvic tilt, the you will feel rooted, R-O-O-T, rooted in a way that allows you to drive your knees out and push and tuck the tailbone. So the tailbone tucks under and it spreads this part of our tight hip base. Foot is working, ankle's working. It feels like my book's a little crooked. Chin tuck, abs to spine. Release, relax, you're done with your book. Now, oof. Can we come to the floor? Come to the floor and be prepared to be face down. You know, there are things that I talk about almost weekly, and sometimes I call it the universe. The universe keeps in a layering way day after day with the people that I get to work with. The universe keeps bringing my attention to certain aspects of people's bodies. It makes me smile and it gives me focus. Okay. So our focus right now is going to be 2 versions of knee extension. Okay. So just for the sake of me having a little pillow, all right. The little pillow, if you have a little pillow, if you have a towel that you can roll up, your foam roller is too big. So it needs to have a lower profile. But we're going to start with a simple version of knee extension. Okay, so we start, you can just, hug the other knee so you're comfortable. What the pillow or your rolled up towel does is it creates a little bit of a leverager so that as you push the knee down, we're protecting that joint, but also a visual follow through of what should happen through the rest of the leg. I'm flexible enough to be able to get my heel off the floor. I shouldn't, flexible, maybe that's the wrong word. Okay. We've done this little test before, minus anything behind the knee. This is actually a knee evaluation test. Okay. If you activate your quad and you push the back of the knee down into the floor, you should be able to get your heel to clear the floor. Now, what the test reveals is that if you cannot get your heel off the floor, then your leg at rest is actually not rested. There's pressure, the quad is working, and there's too much pressure on the knee. So that's the actual test. This helps us start strengthening the part that's weak. So you're hopefully just pushing away, rocking the heel, flexing the foot, and you are getting some quadricep activation. But notice what's not happening is we're not having to do lunges or squats, leg presses, right? To get the quad activated. This is a knee rehab move. So that's phase 1. Okay, go to leg number 2. If you want to run, some of you have been in classes previous to this, right? Where you sat with me and we ran the little test. If you want to do 5 or 6 repetitions minus the pillow or the towel behind your knee so that you can evaluate yourself, part of the evaluation is to just go, oh, I know this about myself. I know that when I straighten my leg, that I, one, have a really tight hamstring and I can't get my heel off the floor, or two, I have so much pressure in my kneecap that I actually do need knee relief exercises and strengthening exercises. So what category do you fall into? Release and relax, switch sides. The more you know about yourself, it gives you guidance, right? Here we go. Push down, stretch the leg, flex the foot, activate. If you're getting really uncomfortable, just put your hands behind you, right? Relax, push down into whatever it is you're using. Your foot shouldn't have any trouble getting off the floor, but that's not where the work stops. Once the foot lifts, you want to then rock the ankle. And I am intentionally in really bad upper body form because I wanted to draw your eye to it. And if you looked at me and you're like, what's Michelle doing? That's not right. Try not to do that. Use your arms to be pillars of strength, right? Push. If you're not going to use your abs to keep you up here, then find your other muscles to assist you, right? 5, 4, 3, 2. This is exercise 1, release and relax. So we know that mobility deals with the joints, all right? We're dealing with the joint, and now we're going to do phase 2, dealing with the same joint. So as you watch, you have options. You can either put your forehead on a pillow so that you've got breathing space. If your shoulders don't like to be up here supporting your head, then you pull your pillow under your forehead and you relax your arms to wherever it feels relaxed, okay? But I want you to shake the hips out. If you're kind of just watching for a moment to see what's going to happen here, you're going to lay flat, get your forehead supported so your neck is long. I want you to take and flex both feet so that your knees are not on the floor. And now squeeze your buns, feel the hip bones and the pubic bone activate down into the mat, shoulders out of the ears. Okay. So just you getting your knees off the floor, that's the success story. You're in activation right now. So bend one leg. You should feel the muscles relax when that knee hits the floor. Re-straighten that leg. Squeeze the buns. Bend the other leg. Re-straighten it. Pelvic tilt. One leg is bent, one leg is straight. And you can alternate this pattern. We're going to shoot for about 8 on each side, so go slow. When the leg is bent, it's released. When both legs are straight for that moment, you're in full activation. So it's harder to do it this way than it is to let one leg release and just work one leg at a time. If you're losing your glute contraction, you should lose the glute contraction when one knee comes down to the floor. All right. And then for that moment when both legs are fully extended, that's when I want you to reset your active buns, and you should feel the quadriceps fire up right there with both knees off the floor and the buns tight. Do one more. Tighten it up, pelvic tilt, fire up the derriere, and then release and relax. Relax the feet. A little stretch is going to be good. 2 versions of quadricep and hip flexor stretch. Okay, version 1 is going to be the harder of the 2. so that version 2, we can kind of feel like we're relaxing ourselves. You do need your pillow. So whether it's your pillow, your Eric's pad, an extra rolled up mat so that you've got a lot of cushion for your knees. This is nothing new. We've been incorporating this one for a while now, right? One knee down, one leg steps forward. The foot that goes with this knee down, if you can get hold of your toes and make all of your toes participate, that will be a huge challenge because often we only have one toe or two that are connected to the floor, and then the heel is kind of cockeyed. But it means if the heel is cockeyed, then the alignment of the rest of you is off too. So take a moment to square up that foot, zip and tuck. Voila. You're like, something's happening over there. If you want to get just a slightly deeper stretch, all of this comes with you. It's not necessary though, but if you feel like your body just wants to go like this, then so much is wrong, right? We've got to stack, activate, and then drive the stretch. Pull back. There is a flow pattern that I do on the weekends, right? And I may have presented this to you before, but I end up relaxing the trailing foot. And on the weekends, I'm not taking my blue cushion out to the dock, so I'm just on a mat and I float back into this sit down position, right? And then I take myself and I rock back and I push myself up and I come forward into thoracic spine, and then I wrap my leg and I rock back like my body is just like it's like all over the place. So when we hold positions, there's nothing wrong with that. But the nice thing is to feel yourself have some fluidity in the ankle, hip, knee, right? And the spine. Switch legs. And I will tell you that it is a good feeling. Part of the challenge is figuring out what movements can you connect for your own flow pattern. And sometimes if you don't spend any time outside of what we're doing in a very constructed manner, then you don't know what ultimately could feel good to you, right? I have people that say to me, I'm already in it. My foot squared up. I'm locked in, right? Locked in by pulling all of this back. Maybe your flow would just be, maybe that would be enough, right? Movement 1, movement 2. I don't know. Until you start experimenting, right? How many times have I had somebody say to me, you must not get any sleep. Where did you learn how to do that? There are things that I don't have to see to be curious about, things that my body just naturally is curious about. Release this one, come to your side. So if you know that you have a hard time getting your hand to your foot, then you will need your stretch out strap. Oddly enough, my stretch out strap, my 15 stretch out straps, they're all in my car. Oh, Lordy. So improvise. I do not need a stretch out strap, but just for the sake of demonstration, my stretch out strap has just been created. Loop the foot. You see, you have to think outside the box. If you don't have something handy, then you just go, oh, I can make do with that. So your stretch out strap can render you here, right? Which isn't so bad. And now for the option. If you don't need the stretch out strap, okay, be patient with me. There is a type of a stretch that is similar to this quad stretch, but you grab the bottom leg. We've done this before. Pull the bottom leg back. And this is if you're going for like the little bit extra, because you have to be able to get your foot. You could even use the strap for that. Glide the knee back. And then what you're going to try to do is open up your front body towards the ceiling while you're still tugging on that bottom leg. You're just trying to get your torso open. You could take your free arm, grab the other leg. So you've got one hand holding the foot or your strap attached to the bottom leg, and the other hand is tucking that knee up. This is another version of being in a pretzel position, right? Now, release and relax. So if we want to run through this, swivel around. This other leg is what we finish with. Okay, so here you go. I gave you an option that may have been the right option for you, but now you're kind of curious about, well, could you actually do the other version modified? So option one, looping the top foot, right? That is if you need the band, because you're just going to hang out here and be totally content that this is your stretch. But option two, if you can't get your hand to the foot, then you loop the foot. And then you drag the foot back, right? The whole leg pulls back. And then you try to take your upper body and open the upper body towards the ceiling. So if you are holding a band in your foot, you have to figure out the position of your arm so that you don't feel like you're straining your shoulder. I would go palm down and grab the band, and then use the other hand and grab the knee of that other leg. And you're pulling your shoulder blades to the floor. So at some point, you're going to stop fighting your movement and you're going to just try to let your body be. And this is where you hold for a few seconds. So remember, basics and then slight advancements to just allow you to know, release and relax, that with the right accessories to help you get something that you can't get your own hand and foot to, but yet with an accessory, you can guide yourself into a greater stretch line. We just have to teach the skill of how to pick the right accessory that allows you the ability to advance on. So namaste. You have successfully completed this portion of your day. And listen, here's what I'll say. If you see something that you're curious about and you want me to be the guinea pig or help teach you how to do it, send it to me. I'm open to learning something new. And you guys know that I love to break things down to the point where if I find it challenging and then can figure it out, then at least I can give you the heads up on how to do what. I mean, you leave it to myself. I think I come up with some pretty good things, but sometimes, I never know. You might want more. So